It's no time to play innocent, because today we're diving into the adult side of cruising. The stuff people whisper about in hallways, the secrets veteran cruisers swear by, and the insider revelations cruise lines definitely don't put in the brochures. I'm talking about everything from going bare on your balcony to what really happens with those relaxation gummies, to hookup culture at sea, risky swimsuits, booze hacks, and the naughtiest little games passengers get into after dark. So buckle up, because this is about to get real. And maybe a little spicy. And hey, if you like brutally honest cruise talk like this, I hope you'll subscribe. All right, let's start with a juicy one. Balcony nudity. What's actually allowed? Let's kick things off with a classic fantasy every cruiser has at least thought about. Going bare on your balcony. Now listen, that balcony might feel private, but it's not exactly Fort Knox. The dividers between cabins don't go all the way up, there are gaps near the floor, and at just the right angle, your neighbors can get a little Eiffel Tower preview without even trying. And here's something most people don't realize. That pretty glass railing? It can be super reflective, especially at night with your cabin lights on. You might think you're invisible in the shadows, but from the right spot next door, yeah, not so much. So if you're planning to sunbathe in your birthday suit, step out first and check who's around. Maybe even bring a towel, just in case the neighbor suddenly decides today is the perfect time for fresh air. But is it against the rules? Technically, most cruise lines say public nudity isn't allowed. But then the fine print says you just need to be appropriately attired, if visible to others. So if you're in the middle of the ocean, nobody's around, and you've done your angle check, well, you can connect the dots. Number 2. The truth about bringing substances on board. All right, let's talk about something a lot of adults quietly wonder about before a cruise, bringing a little something to enhance the vibe. Gummies, vapes, edibles, whatever your relaxation of choice might be. Here's the honest truth. Yes, people do try to bring it on board. And yes, some of them succeed. But cruise lines are cracking down way harder than ever before. Remember, ships follow federal law, not state law. So even if you're sailing out of a place where it's totally legal on land, it's not legal once you step into that terminal. And trust me, security is not messing around. We're talking drug-sniffing dogs pacing the lines, luggage swabs, random checks, and cameras everywhere as you head through the terminal. The dogs don't care about your vacation plans. They care about doing their job. If they find something, your trip can end right there. No refund, no discussion, just a very awkward walk back to the parking lot. So, the insider tip? Leave it at home. The cruise is relaxed enough already. You don't need to start it with an interrogation from port security. Number 3. How to work your drink package like a pro. Now let's move on to a fan favorite, drink packages. Most of the time I'm talking about whether they're worth it, but today we're going straight into how to absolutely maximize them like a seasoned cruiser. First off, only 2 major cruise lines actually put hard limits on how many drinks you can have: Carnival and Princess. Carnival caps you at 15 alcoholic drinks per day, and Princess gives you 15 drinks total on their lower-tier package, alcoholic and non-alcoholic. But if you upgrade on Princess, no daily limit. And the other cruise lines? They let you go full "it's 5 o'clock somewhere" mode with no max number. But here's the part most people don't know: the timing rule. Nearly every cruise line has a limit where you can only order 1 drink at a time, and there's a built-in cool-down. On Carnival, for example, you've got to wait 5 minutes before you can order your next drink. So if you're pacing yourself, no big deal. But if you're trying to go hard, that 5-minute rhythm becomes your strategy. Order a cocktail, enjoy it for 5 minutes, and then stroll right back up. And here's a sneaky tip. If you want a shot and a drink, order the drink first. Then, after your 5 minutes are up, order the shot. That way, you've still got something to sip after you knock back the quick one. Cruise bartenders remember faces, routines, and drink orders, so be cool, be polite, and they'll take care of you all cruise long. Number 4. How to avoid kids on your cruise without being a monster. Alright, let's get into a topic every adult thinks about, but rarely says out loud. How do you enjoy a cruise without being surrounded by a swarm of sugar-charged kids? Nothing against the little ones, but sometimes you just want peace, a quiet pool, and a vacation that doesn't feel like a Chuck E. Cheese at sea. Now sure, you could sail Virgin Voyages, the adults-only line. Everybody knows that. But if you're sticking with the mainstream cruise lines, here are 2 insider tricks that work every single time. First, timing is everything. If school is in session, especially right after big breaks like Christmas or summer, the number of kids on board drops drastically. I'm talking night and day difference. You'll suddenly find yourself in Serenity instead of a floating daycare. Second tip, the more you spend, the fewer kids you'll see. It sounds blunt, but it's the truth. Premium areas like the Haven on Norwegian, the MSC Yacht Club, or private beach clubs like Hideaway Beach? Almost no kids. Luxury lines? Practically none. And the upscale suites on mainstream ships? Those stay wonderfully calm and quiet. So if you're craving an adult's first cruise without switching brands, timing and upgrades are your secret weapons. Number 5. Secret Singles Meetups. How hookups really happen at sea. Now, let's be honest, plenty of adults board a cruise wondering if a little vacation romance might be in the cards. Whether you're looking for good company, a flirtatious night out, or something a bit more adventurous, cruises actually make it easier than people think. But here's the insider secret. The cruise line itself can help you out. Almost every major ship hosts singles meetups during the voyage. They're usually tucked into the evening schedule, hidden between trivia and karaoke, and they're almost always held in a lounge or bar that's just dim enough to encourage a little boldness. And no, there's no staff member playing matchmaker. These meetups are completely self-led. Think of it like the cruise line saying, "Hey, we'll give you the location, the rest is up to you." Now, just because someone shows up doesn't mean they're down for a fling. The same rules as land apply. Some people are looking for friends, some for conversation, and yes, some are looking for a little more. One piece of advice, though, remember, a ship is basically a small floating neighborhood. If you do decide to hook up with someone and later realize maybe that wasn't your finest decision, well, you're probably still going to see them at the buffet tomorrow morning, and by the pool, and in the elevator. Yeah, subtle exits don't really exist at sea. So if you're going to dive into cruise romance, just be smart. And maybe make sure there's someone you won't mind bumping into for the rest of the week. Number 6. What crew can actually see in your cabin. Alright, time to clear up one of the biggest myths in cruising. What the crew can actually see and what they can't when it comes to your cabin. Because some people pack, let's just say, items they'd rather not have featured in the room steward's daily highlights reel. First things first, your room steward will enter your cabin every day. They're not snooping, they're doing their job, but they're also the first person who's going to notice if something looks suspicious, dangerous, or just straight up against the rules. If you leave something out that vibrates, glows, buzzes, or requires batteries, yeah, they're going to see it. And here's the part most cruisers have no clue about. Even though your cabin feels like your private space, legally, it's still the cruise line's property. When you book your trip, buried in all that fine print you definitely didn't read, is a clause saying the cruise line can enter and search your stateroom and your bags, if they think there's a good reason. Now don't panic, this isn't some floating prison. Random searches hardly ever happen, and the vast majority of passengers go their entire cruising life without anything even close to that happening. But if you bring something illegal, dangerous, or clearly banned on board, the cruise line can and will check it out. So, the insider tip? Don't bring anything you'd be embarrassed for someone to find. And if you do bring something, maybe put it away before housekeeping shows up. Trust me, room stewards have seen everything. You don't need to add your name to their mental scrapbook. Number 7. Spicy swimwear. What's allowed and what crosses the line? Let's shift gears and talk about swimwear. Specifically, the kind that makes people do a double take on the pool deck, because cruise ships are basically floating resorts, and the fashion on board can get bold, very bold. Here's the straightforward truth. As long as you're covered, most typical swimsuits are allowed. That includes cheeky bottoms, high-cut suits, and, yes, thongs. If you're sailing in warm weather destinations like the Caribbean or the Med, you'll see thong swimsuits on just about every cruise. Nobody's fainting. Nobody's calling security. It's totally normal these days. But let's talk about the line you don't want to cross. Some swimsuits, especially the trendy ones online, become completely see-through when they're wet. Others are sheer from the start. And even though you technically have clothing on, if the suit is exposing parts that usually stay private, that's where you're going to get into trouble. Cruise lines make the rules simple. No nudity. If your swimsuit leaves nothing to the imagination once you jump in the pool, it's going to break that rule. And here's an insider tip you'll thank me for later. Bring a cover-up, not for modesty, for elevators. There's nothing more awkward than riding up to deck 15 next to a family of 4 while you're wearing something that could double as dental floss. Bottom line, be fun, be confident, just don't be accidentally X-rated. Number 8. The wild world of nude and lifestyle cruises. Now, if all this talk about spicy swimwear has you thinking, I wonder if there are cruises where people just skip the swimsuits altogether. Oh, yes. There absolutely are. And they're a whole different world. Most people don't realize there's an entire industry built around nude cruises and lifestyle cruises. And no, these are not urban legends. These are full-ship charters where every single passenger on board is there for the same very liberated reason. Let's start with the nude cruises. One of the biggest is the Big Nude Boat, which literally books an entire ship. We're talking thousands of passengers, and everyone is free to go completely bare in designated areas. Pool decks? Clothing optional. Theme nights? Let's just say the costume budget is very low. And for the 2026 sailing, they're taking over the Norwegian Pearl. Yes, a full-size cruise ship filled with people in their natural state. Then we've got the lifestyle cruises, for swingers, open couples, and people who basically treat the ship like an adults-only playground. Bliss Cruise is the big name here, and they charter some massive ships. Even Wonder of the Seas, one of the biggest cruise ships in the entire world. These trips feature clothing-optional decks, after-hours events, themed parties, and, quote, multiple play areas so guests can choose their level of participation. And before you worry, yes, the ship gets a thorough sanitizing before the next group of regular passengers comes on board. So don't worry. You won't be sitting on a questionable bar stool if you show up the week after. Number 9. The truth about public hanky-panky. Let's move on to a topic that every cruiser jokes about, until they actually see it happening. Yep, public hanky-panky. And believe me, it happens more often than people want to admit. Whether it's a couple who had a few too many margaritas, or someone who thinks a dark corner of the ship is basically a private cabana, trust me, it's not. There are thousands of people on board, wandering around at all hours. Just because you don't see anyone nearby doesn't mean someone isn't about to walk around the corner with an ice cream cone and get the shock of their life. But here's the part people always forget. If you do something in a public space on a cruise ship, You're on camera. Every hallway, every deck, every lounge, every stairwell, all monitored. So unless you're actively trying to give the security team a free late-night show, keep anything spicy inside your cabin. It might feel adventurous in the moment, but getting called to the security office because you got frisky behind a lifeboat? Yeah, that story never ends cool. Number 10. Duty-free liquor deals. Worth it or overhyped? Let's talk booze, specifically the duty-free shop. If you like to drink, strolling into the duty-free liquor section feels like walking into paradise. Rows of bottles, glowing shelves, huge signs bragging about tax-free prices. It's like a candy store for adults. But here's the real truth. It's not a scam. But it's not the insane bargain people imagine either. Most of the time, the price you pay on board for a 1-liter bottle is about the same as you'd pay for a 750-milliliter bottle back home. So yes, technically, you're getting a little more booze for your buck. But life-changing deal? Not really. Still, if you find a bottle you love and you want a bigger size for a fair price, go for it. Just remember, you don't get to drink it on the ship. They'll hold it for you and deliver it to your cabin on the last night. So it's a deal, just not a cruise party deal. Number 11. The most adult-friendly show on the ship. Alright, let's talk entertainment. Because while most cruise shows are super family-friendly, there is one onboard event that's absolutely meant for the grown-ups. And no, I'm not talking about the late-night comedy show, although those can get pretty spicy too. I'm talking about the cruise ship's version of the newlywed game. If you've never seen it, imagine 3 couples, usually the youngest couple, the longest married couple, and one picked right out of the crowd, all answering personal, borderline embarrassing questions about their relationship. It starts cute, then it escalates fast. We're talking questions like, where was your first kiss? Which of your spouse's family members would you least want to be stuck on a deserted island with? And of course, the legendary, where is the strangest place you've ever made, whoopee? Couples get shockingly honest, like jaw-droppingly honest. Half the audience is laughing, the other half is trying not to spit out their drinks, and the couples on stage are probably rethinking their life choices. It is hands down one of the funniest, most entertaining things you can watch on a cruise. But trust me, it is not for the kids. This is strictly adult humor, delivered by regular passengers who forget for a moment they're speaking into a microphone in front of a full theater. Don't miss it. Thanks for hanging out with me through all the cheeky, spicy, and slightly scandalous secrets of cruising. If you enjoyed this honest look behind the curtain, the stuff cruise lines don't put in their brochures, then I hope you'll subscribe for more. Until next time, happy sailing!